You know the sound. It isn't a bang or a whimper. It's the heavy, authoritative thud of a metal credit card hitting a wooden table. A noise that cuts through the laughter of a trendy restaurant like a gavel in a courtroom. I know that sound better than I know the sound of my own mother's voice. For a decade of my life, that sound was the bell that signaled the end of my financial autonomy and the beginning of a ritual I call the shakedown. I remember the exact night the spell broke. I was sitting at a dinner table surrounded by 5 people I had known since college. The lighting was dim, designed to make everyone look attractive, and the prices on the menu look illegible. The air smelled of truffle oil and performative laughter. The bill arrived. It was a thick leather folder, resting in the center of the table like a bomb that hadn't detonated yet. Someone, let's call him the leader, clapped his hands and announced the verdict we all knew was coming. Let's just split it down the middle, guys. Even Steven. It's easier that way. I froze. I looked at the bill. Then I looked at my plate. I had ordered the roasted cauliflower and drank tap water because I was trying to save for a security deposit on a new apartment. My meal with tax came to $28. But across from me, the leader had consumed 3 smoked cocktails, a lobster tail, and an appetizer tower that sat largely untouched in the center of the table. I did the mental math. It's a tragic skill I've developed, the ability to divide a 3-digit number by 6 in under 3 seconds while maintaining eye contact. The total was nearly $600. My share of the split was $97. I watched myself reach for my wallet. It was like an out-of-body experience. I saw my hand trembling slightly as I pulled out my debit card. I saw the fake smile plastered on my face, a mask of easygoing generosity. Inside, I was screaming. I was about to pay a $70 tax for the privilege of sitting in a chair. I was subsidizing someone else's lobster. I was paying for the atmosphere, for the social cohesion, for the right to not be looked at as the cheap one. I handed over the card. I smiled. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just paying for dinner. I was paying a subscription fee for a service I never signed up for. My name is Bichon, Warner, and I have spent an uncomfortable amount of time calculating the financial damage inflicted by the people who supposedly care about me most. It's a hard truth to swallow, but nobody tells you that modern friendship operates like a luxury tax. We are raised to believe that loneliness is the enemy, so we pay any price to avoid it. But looking back at that dinner, and the hundreds of dinners before it, I realized that the price wasn't just money. It was my freedom. The average socially active person spends thousands of dollars a year on what I call obligatory fun. These aren't luxuries you choose for yourself. You don't wake up on a Tuesday and think, I would love to spend $200 on a group gift for a baby shower for someone I haven't spoken to in 3 years. No, these are taxes levied by your peer group. And the penalty for tax evasion is exclusion. You can't opt out without becoming that person. The hermit, the Scrooge, the buzzkill. So, like me, you pay up. You pay month after month, wondering why your savings account looks anemic despite working a good job. You wonder why you feel broke even though you make decent money. The answer isn't that you're bad with money. The answer is that you are trapped in a system of extraction disguised as social harmony. Let's talk about the most predatory social construct ever invented, the destination bachelor party. I remember getting the email for one a few years ago. A friend from my freshman dorm was getting married. Great guy. We weren't close anymore, but we had history. He decided the only appropriate way to celebrate his upcoming nuptials was a 4-day excursion to Nashville. I didn't want to go to Nashville. I couldn't afford to go to Nashville. But the email went out to 12 guys and the social pressure was immediate. The reply all chain started. I'm in. Let's go. Can't wait. What was I supposed to do? Reply and say, actually, I have credit card debt and this trip will set me back 6 months? Of course not. That breaks the illusion. So I booked the flight, $400. I sent the Venmo for the Airbnb, $300. But the costs of the trip are never just the travel. It's the mandatory fun tax. It's the dinner every night where someone orders shots for the table that I didn't want. It's the cover charges for bars I hated. It's the group activities, axe throwing, pedal taverns, whiskey tastings that cost $50 a pop. By the time I landed back home, Hungover and exhausted, I had spent $1,400. That is a mortgage payment. That is a significant chunk of a car loan. I spent $1,400 to watch someone I see twice a year get embarrassingly drunk in a city I had no desire to visit. And the worst part, the wedding hadn't even happened yet. That was another $500 for a suit, a hotel, and a gift from the registry. Suddenly, one friend's life decision had cost me $2,000. And I was supposed to be happy about it. I was supposed to be grateful to be included. Now multiply this. If you are in your late 20s or early 30s, you are hitting what I call the danger zone. You might have 4 weddings a year, maybe 6. Even if you skip the bachelor parties, which brands you as a bad friend, you are still hemorrhaging $3,000 to $4,000 annually just to watch people make promises they have a 50% statistical chance of keeping. It's not just the big events, though. The big events are easy to spot. It's the slow bleed of the birthday month that really kills you. Someone in your social circle has a birthday every single month. That is 12 mandatory dinners where you are expected to subsidize someone else's celebration. The rule is unspoken but absolute. The birthday person doesn't pay. Obviously, that cost gets split among everyone else. You show up thinking you'll grab a burger and a beer, $40 tops. But the birthday person is celebrating. They order champagne for the table. Someone else suggests appetizers. When the lifestyle creep kicks in, lifestyle creep is insidious. It happens when one person in the group upgrades their life and the rest of the group is expected to follow suit. I remember when one of my friends bought a boat, a modest boat, but a boat nonetheless. Suddenly, hanging out became boat days. Now you might think a free boat ride sounds great. Wrong, because now I needed to bring premium beer, not the cheap stuff, because we were on a boat. I needed to chip in for gas because apparently marine engines consume fuel like small aircraft. I needed appropriate boat shoes, which is somehow a real category of footwear that costs money. One person's luxury asset became everyone's financial burden, or take the friend who got really into wine. Suddenly, casual hangouts at someone's apartment turned into tastings, where everyone was expected to bring a bottle that cost more than $20. I was fine with boxed wine. Boxed wine is a technological marvel that keeps wine fresh and reduces packaging waste. But now I found myself standing in the wine aisle of a liquor store, Googling labels like I was studying for an exam, trying to find something that wouldn't get me mocked, but wouldn't destroy my budget. The sneakiest wealth drain, however, is the group trip. It always starts innocently. Someone says, "Wouldn't it be fun if we all went somewhere together?" Yes, in theory, but group trips are where friendships go to reveal their true financial hierarchies. One couple wants the nice hotel. I was thinking of a hostel or a budget Airbnb. Someone wants to eat at Michelin star restaurants for every meal. I was planning to hit a grocery store and make sandwiches. Here is the rule of group dynamics. The group operates at the spending level of its wealthiest member. It never averages down. It always ratchets up. Everyone else quietly goes into debt trying to keep pace. What makes this system so effective, so impossible to escape, is that it is invisible. Nobody sends you an invoice labeled friendship tax. It's 1,000 small decisions where saying no feels worse than saying yes. It's death by 1,000 brunches. Each individual expense seems reasonable in isolation. What's another $40 for a round of drinks? But they compound into a pattern that keeps you broke while making you feel like you're living a full social life. The psychology behind why this is so hard to escape comes down to something called social proof. We determine what is normal by looking at what everyone else is doing. If everyone around me is spending money on social activities, my brain interprets that as the correct behavior. To deviate from that feels like failure. It feels like I'm falling behind. It feels like I'm the one who doesn't have their life together. But here is the secret I learned too late. Everyone else is pretending. That dinner where I paid $97, I found out later that 3 other people at that table put it on credit cards they couldn't pay off. They were stressed too. They were panicking too. We were all performing financial stability for each other while individually panicking in private. We were in a Mexican standoff of fake affluence. It was a collective delusion, and social media amplifies this to a deafening roar. You aren't just competing with your actual friends anymore. You are competing with the curated highlight reel of everyone you have ever met. You see the vacation photos, the restaurant check-ins, the concert stories. Your brain doesn't process those as isolated moments. It processes them as evidence that everyone else is living a full, rich, expensive life, and you are missing out. FOMO, fear of missing out, isn't just a cute acronym. It is a financial weapon. It drains your account while making you feel like you are just trying to keep up with normal, but you are seeing the front stage performance, not the backstage panic. You see the dinner, not the credit card statement. You see the engagement ring, not the payment plan. Social media is a financial horror movie where everyone is pretending to be rich, and you are the only one who thinks it's real. So how did I escape? How did I stop the bleeding without becoming a hermit who eats ramen alone in the dark? Because that was my fear. I thought opting out of spending meant opting out of having a life. It started with a conversation, not a grand announcement, but a quiet admission. The next time a friend suggested an expensive dinner, I didn't make up an excuse about being busy. I didn't lie. I took a deep breath and I used a script I had practiced in the mirror. I said, I'm trying to be more intentional with my money right now, but I'd love to hang out. Do you want to do something cheaper? Maybe grab a coffee or come over for a movie? I waited for the rejection. I waited for the look of disgust. Hey, but it didn't come. My friend looked at me and her shoulders dropped. She looked relieved. She said, honestly, thank God. I'm so broke right now. Coffee sounds amazing. That was the crack in the dam. I realized that by speaking up, I wasn't being cheap. I was giving everyone else permission to stop performing. I was breaking the spell. I started suggesting alternatives myself. Instead of waiting for someone else to plan the expensive thing and then trying to back out, I became the person who texted first. Hey, want to go for a hike? Want to do a potluck? Want to have a board game night? You would be amazed at how many people are desperate for a low-cost option. They just need someone else to suggest it. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. I lost some friends. Let's be honest about that. There were people in my circle whose entire friendship was built on shared consumption. We went shopping together. We tried new restaurants together. We traveled together. When I took the spending away, there was nothing left. The silence between us was deafening. That stung. It really did. But it was also clarifying. I realized those weren't real friendships. They were economic alliances. A real friend cares about your presence, not your purchasing power. If someone stops inviting you because you can't afford their lifestyle, they aren't your friend. They're your customer, and you just stop buying. I created spending boundaries. I set a hard limit, $50 a month for social activities. When I hit that number, I was done for the month. This wasn't deprivation, it was a plan. And when I had to decline an invitation because I hit my limit, I said exactly that. I've hit my social budget for the month, but let's plan something for the first week of next month. People respect boundaries when they are stated clearly and without apology. It shows self-respect. And here is the crucial step that made the sacrifice worth it. I didn't just save the money, I redirected it. I took the thousands of dollars I would have spent on bachelor parties I didn't want to attend and dinners I didn't enjoy, and I put it into a savings account I labeled the Freedom Fund. I watched it grow. $500, $2,000, $5,000. Every time I was tempted to say yes to something expensive just to fit in, I looked at that account. I reminded myself, every dollar I don't spend on social signaling is a dollar that buys me options. It buys me the option to quit a job I hate. It buys me the option to take a month off if I burn out. It buys me the ability to sleep at night without staring at the ceiling, calculating interest rates. I ask myself, would I rather have this lobster dinner or would I rather have freedom? The dinner is temporary, the freedom is permanent. The wedding situation was the hardest to navigate. But I learned that I don't owe anyone a weekend trip. I don't owe anyone a $300 registry gift. What I owe the people who matter to me is genuine care and support. I started sending thoughtful cards with heartfelt notes. I offered to help with things that didn't cost money. Setting up the venue, dog sitting during the honeymoon. I showed up to the ceremony, but I skipped the optional expensive receptions if the cost was too high. And you know what? The bride and groom were so overwhelmed with their own stress that they barely noticed. We have created this social obligation matrix where attending events you can't afford is considered more important than your actual financial stability. That is insane. My life looks different now. My weekends aren't filled with $400 blowouts. My Instagram feed isn't as flashy, but my relationships are deeper. The friends I have left are the ones who are happy to sit on a park bench and talk for 3 hours with a coffee. We tell stories. We laugh. We connect. I realize that nobody tells stories about the time they went to a mid-tier restaurant and split the bill. They tell stories about the time they got lost hiking, or the board game night that turned into a 4-hour rivalry, or the potluck where someone's dish caught fire. The memories that stick are almost never the expensive ones. Connection doesn't have a price tag. It just took me getting broke enough to figure that out. So the next time the bill arrives and someone suggests splitting it evenly, I don't freeze anymore. I don't smile and nod. I look at them, kindly but firmly, and I say, I think I'll just get my own check tonight. It's a small sentence, but it sounds like freedom.